Bubbleman talked about you.
We got some enjoyable
Hi,
shit to
Ed.
do.
How's your stream going?
You know what time it is, baby!
Oh, Bubbleman, you shouldn't have. Oh, man. All right, let's take a look.
Now, I'm not going to react to the clip, okay? I'm not going to react to the clip. I'm just going to talk about some of the points that he raised. And essentially, Ed's point in this is he wants the ELO system. He's like, yes, you understand. It's the ELO system. He doesn't like my explanation. In fact, I thought he knew about the DK resurgence, or the appearance, I guess, of DK in Smash. But he was like, oh, it's Amster guy. The Yoshi guy is really good. I'm like, this is like 5 years old news, Ed. Come on. Keep up with everything going on in the esports community, please.
Sorry, I'm like...
There I am.
At the moment, Osu's core gameplay, its core like incentive to play the game, which is the ranking system, does not incentivize any sort of multiplayer experience. I want to give players a reason. I know what he's about to say. He's gonna say, play tournaments. If you have a cool idea and you actually work on it and you get it in front of the right people and convince people to adopt it, I feel like you can actually get it in. Because it's happened in the past, right?
It happened in the past because they were already looking for a new PP system is the problem. Tom94's TP existed at a time when PPV1 was failing, and they needed a new system. And that's why it is the current system that we play on. And yes, you can do anything whenever you want. The trouble is, we've already done it 3 times. We have had MadeBot. What was the one before it?
MadeBot, Elite Bot X, Osu Rank Lobbies,
but we had
etc.,
that.
etc.
We had MadeBot. We had Elite Botix. I have had a DM from a guy saying, "Hey, we've made a 1v1 system, 2v2 and 3v3 elo system," and it's like, yeah, cool. But every single time this has happened, it has failed because people don't participate in it because they'd rather play tournaments.
That's right.
ELO
Longevity.
Will never
I'm not sure
work
if tournaments is the reason,
in the way that
but it fails on longevity.
in the
I
way
agree.
that all of these guys that are at the top of the leaderboards have really good fundamental skill. Not applied consistently because it is a snapshot. To move to an ELO system or to run an ELO system alongside this, you are essentially saying all of these 3 or 4 hours of work that you're doing to gain a high rank, to prove your fundamentals, you also now have to play a 1v1, 2v2, whatever, ELO-based system for 2 or 3 hours a day to also gain rank in that other system. It's too much. Because what Ed wants to do is have 2 separate systems that you have to essentially farm in. You have to play in. You have to gain PP. That is an expression of your fundamentals. And you have to gain rank in ELO because that's an expression of your roundedness. People, if they wanted to be good in the ELO system, wouldn't bother with tournaments anymore because they would be burnt out from playing weekends for tournaments and then the tournament matches essentially in the week. You would be killing people with the amount of effort they'd have to put in, and you would stunt the community because to be consistent, you have to sacrifice your top-end performance. You see where the problem lies now? The reason it won't...
What? That makes no sense. This is not a zero-sum game situation here. Just because... It's not like a player has to choose between tournaments or the PP system or ELO. You can do all the ones that you want. What? Wait, I'm so confused.
If you are always holding these players down to the lower level, then there is no room for them to push their top level, which is what the PP system advocates for. And the tournament system, the best few players in tournaments, apart from the best player in the game, I guess, are down here somewhere. They're not the best mechanics-wise, or they've not proven themselves to be the best mechanics-wise because they're having to hold themselves back. Look at Nahus, look at Milosh. They both attended Kel, and they were in the top 4. Look at Ninarik. He attended Kel, he was in the top 3. All of these players in the top 10 who can step back, taper their mechanics down a level to essentially lean on these fundamentals at a lower level, because they're, you know, you pick up something that doesn't weigh anything to you and you give it to something else and suddenly they get completely caught off guard by how heavy it is because they've not put the work in at the gym. That's my best way of explaining it.
I don't know if I'm understanding his point here. Is he saying the fact that like these guys are like essentially let's simplify it as specialists who are then like thrown into like a tournament setting? They spent so many of their cards into like getting so good at this one at a very fine set of skills in order to raise up the ranks, and then when you put them in a tournament setting, they're like all of a sudden they're sent these curveballs with skills that they're not well rounded in, and then they get obliterated. Is that what he's referring to, and how that's not fun? What?
Whereas in Osu, you've got 14-star A ranks now, which we wouldn't have if we were playing tournaments still stuck down at 7-star no mod 1s. That's my take on this whole thing. I'm just completely...
Yeah, my take is that 14 stars shouldn't even exist. I mean, even if the star rating was a thing, that thing shouldn't be possible. Like, there should be a cap on difficulty. Like, incentivize people to be more well-rounded in this than to have full send a single specific part of the game where you now have to optimize for the most insane difficult jumps to be like a 15-second section where they're hitting that section. Like, I don't see, like, I yes, that's impressive, but I don't think that should be the focus. I don't think that should be the focus.
Condensing this video into these two main points, and I'm saying an ELO system won't work because you need the off-seasons between the on-seasons. You need the choice to participate in tournaments because this game ultimately is a single-player game that can be played 1v1 against each other.
Obviously, they're not going to drop everything to go for an ELO system. But if I were to develop an ELO system with a bunch of really smart people, and it does get the respect eventually, then
It never did. I mean, look on my profile. None of these ELO systems ever got... There was an ELO ranking just of tournaments, of 1v1 tournaments. There was an ELO ranking on MadeBot of the... you could sign up, you could play. I played 18 matches on that. I didn't lose a single match. And nobody remembers it. Doesn't matter. It never mattered. 100...
So is that a problem with the system, or is there something else that's the problem with that? Like, my argument is that there has to be some sort of incentive for players to continue engaging with the system. Obviously, the number one thing is that it doesn't matter. Like, it's an alternative system. It doesn't matter because it's not on the profile, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if the solution is really as simple as getting it onto a player's profile or having Peppy implement it, I'd like to believe that if I was able to magically snap my fingers and make the perfect system, I'd like to believe that I have the connections necessary to get that officially implemented into the game. So I'm not concerned about that. I'm more concerned about making a good system, like an amazing, incredible system that's enjoyable, right? So that's where I see like the sort of disconnect. That's also the reason why I see the failures of other ELO-based systems not as like a point of evidence towards the system itself being the problem.
You gotta have so much more activity than you would ever want. Let's have a look for Anand. 4,000 games, and yet in Osu we barely get 150 from OUKT5, which was 20.
Yes, because why the fuck would someone want to engage in these alternative ELO-based systems? Like what? Like the key reason why I feel like I could be the one to actually change things up is because I feel like I have a platform that may be able to be a good enough incentive for people to actually interact with it. Like the evidence of that, well, the reason why I believe this is because when there is something that resonates with people, I will never hear the end of it. The most telltale example was the Osu Battle Royale system. When that video went viral, I never heard the end of it. Never, ever, all right? It was active every single fucking day. And it wasn't until I got fed up with it, with every single day being in Osu Battle Royale lobby, that I eventually stopped playing. And there was no long-term longevity with the game. I didn't want every single video of mine to be a Osu Battle Royale video part 683. And so when I stopped playing it, the system, or the game mode died, right? So what if I could create a system that I know that I would play for hours and hours and hours every single day, that I know has long-term content that can be unique, you know?
Why make ELO system when Elite Botics exists? Yeah, exactly. It already exists within the game. The Elite Botics system already exists. People just don't play it. They don't take it seriously because they take tournaments seriously already. And also, the people who don't want to take tournaments seriously are, like, still good at tournaments because they're just good at the game. That's the whole point of why I challenged Ed to this race to top 100, is because his mechanics are falling behind. If he wants to be a good tournament player, if he wants this whole system that he can believe in and take part in, first you have to be good at one of the aspects. Otherwise, you can't hope to be good at any of the others.
That's interesting. I mean, I'll talk with bubbleman, see what's up. I DM'd him earlier. He told me that he had this clip up and that I was gonna watch through it and stuff. But I think we just have different opinions on this, because I just see it in such like I see the main issue that elo-based systems have within OSU is an incentive to engage with it. If it has an incentive to engage with it, then I would like to believe that many people would flood towards it. Because tournaments, although yes, they are a much more accurate way of gauging a player's skill, the time commitment of it, I feel like, is such a huge turnoff. And I would like to argue, if there was not a badge system within the game where you had your tournaments that you engaged with on your profile, I would highly doubt that the tournament scene would be as big as it is today. It is specifically because of the official support from the game. That is the reason why the tournaments community has developed so much. So with that sort of idea, if there can be a sort of middle ground, assuming that we get official support, assuming we build a system that incentivizes players, not only because of like some stat on their profile, but also through some other long-term incentive for players, not only just players, but mappers and the general community, artists as well, to engage in the system, I just see that as like a win-win-win situation. I don't see that as distracting a player from other systems. Like, a tournament typically happens on the weekends. You practice the map pools and stuff. Of course, that's going to take time. But an ELO-based system, is the appeal of it is that it's such a low... Is barrier to entry the right word? Like, if I wanted to play in the... if I wanted to queue up, I just press the queue button. And, like, I don't know if this is, like, taking his example incorrectly, but, like, when you queue up in Counter-Strike, that is a matchmaking-based, ELO-based system. There are tons of Counter-Strike tournaments out there. It's very obvious that, you know, these players can be global elite in the matchmaking system, the ELO-based system, and be competing in tournaments with their teammates to compete for giant prizes and stuff. And so I'm like, I'm trying to understand from his perspective, if there was like a game mode where most amount of frags in 30 seconds or something like that, and like a custom map, if there was like a legit a leaderboard with that was officially supported by Valve, would that cause like a distraction for players to try to hit that or something like that? I'm like, I don't know, man. The way that I'm interpreting this video is that bubbleman believes, for his reasons, that the system won't work. Previous projects of the system being applied has not seen wide adoption. Therefore, future iterations of it, or at least my ideas for it, definitely will not work. My opinion is, I'm aware that it hasn't worked in the past. I see the failures for the reasons why they haven't worked in the past. I'd like to take a gamble to see if I can do better. And that's it. I see there are genuine positives that could happen as a result of the system working, if it does work. I see a scenario in which artists can be supported and incentivized and even potentially compensated to develop into this system, right? I see an incentive for existing songs that have been created for OSU that are currently just rotting with little to no reason for any player to engage with, because unless it's pulled in a tournament again, or unless it's like, well, most tournament map pools aren't really optimized for the PP system. You won't see people farming them or getting them in their top plays. So they fall into this little weird middle ground where it's a phenomenal song, phenomenal mapping, in my opinion, but there's no incentive to play it. If you do play it, it's like a single weekend because this one tournament decided to reuse it. I see there's a way that we can service that. I see a problem that can be solved. And that's the reason why I'm like, wait a second. All of these problems can be solved through an ELO-based system. A ranking system that I would enjoy with, using songs, existing songs that are currently just sitting there. Like the entire idea from this came from the fact that I paid thousands of dollars for custom songs for them to be used once in a tournament and they just sit there and rot. That's it. Like there has to be, I want to commission more music. I want to bring more mappers together to create maps on that music. But if they're only going to get used once, what's the point? If there's an alternative system where they can actually get played, where players can enjoy that and have a leaderboard that incentivizes them, that can be taken legitimately, I see that as something that might solve that. So we'll see. We'll see. His POV is that Osu is a single-player game, is not a matchmaking system. Like competitive games are built upon matchmaking systems. Osu is fundamentally a single-player game. You can't use CSGO as an example because it's built upon player versus player, not player versus bots. I fail to see how that's relevant. I mean, I see Osu as similar to like speedrun categories, where obviously like the main incentive of a speedrun is to get the best possible time. So in the context of Osu, the main incentive of a player is to get the best possible score. Osu has developed its own system to get your best possible scores from all your scores and compile them into a rank, all right? That makes sense, right? However, there's still the alternative, which is the consistency, right? It's part of the reason why I'm so interested in this ELO-based system for Minecraft RSG. Like, it's fun, right? Testing my ability to not just get in an extremely fast time, but to be consistent and to not die and to, play safe and like go for consistent plays and get consistent fast runs. Like, Minecraft speedrunning is a single player experience, really. You're just you in a Minecraft world, but it's so much more fun when I know I'm up against and racing against another person. Like, you taking a single player experience and making it multiplayer. And I think that's super fun. And I'm just talking that CSGO is a terrible example because it's not a single player experience. But it gets the general point across that having an ELO-based system and tournaments can exist at the same time. This is specifically against the point that bubbleman was bringing up, that if you're one type of player, you can't focus on another type. If you engage in tournaments, you can't engage in an ELO-based system. What's stopping you to create an ELO system for a minority? If those complaining don't want it, they can simply not play it. Why cater to those who don't agree? The ELO system is simply going to be a thing of its own for said minority. Well, for me, like, obviously, if I'm going to be investing into it, I'd like to poll the general community to see if this is something that can be viable, right? So a lot of bubbleman's feedback is extremely valuable to me because this is from a perspective of a person who has interacted with these systems before, and it is of his opinion that it won't work, right? And that's valuable, right? I've been preaching about this sort of system and how I'm so excited by it. But part of all of that is also polling the community if other people genuinely want that. A lot of people have reached out to me who are excited to, help out with that. But then again, the question is, can we solve the problems to make this a long-term recurring thing instead of just another project that just dies? Because I'd rather not invest into just another project that dies, right? Bubbleman, the TLDR is bubbleman seems to think that this is going to be just another project that dies, and he has given his reasons. Now I'm trying to critically think about those reasons and see, okay, do I agree? Basically, as a person who is looking for reasons to better assess the risk of taking this venture, is it worth it? Basically. So, I don't know. At the moment, I'm at the point where having the discussion, like, there's been a lot of discussion, but I feel like I'm at the point where I need to start doing something. Instead of keeping it up in the air, how about I just get started, build the system, or at least like a prototype of it, have it iterate, and then we'll see where it goes from there. If it fails, it fails. It is what it is. Another part of the vision, another project of mine that happens and dies is what it is. But I'm just like so excited by this because it ties in so many different aspects of the community to get the community together, which is why it's like so hard for me to shut up about it. Can you give us a fundamental rundown of what an ELO match looks like? The problem is I can't because there's a lot of things that I still need to figure out. Because like how would the problem that I'm still trying to wrap my head around is like how do we separate difficulty, right? Because bubbleman does bring up a really good point. In the context of chess, everyone is playing on the same board, right? There's like you're either on the black or the white pieces, right? But everyone's always on the same board. In Osu, there are maps, right? But each map has its own difficulty. It kind of makes no sense for an ELO to be localized to a specific map and then to a specific difficulty, right? It needs to be overall to a certain extent. So it's like, how specific do we get? And how, like, if the less specific that we get, the less accurate it's going to become. How do we solve the problems of having something where it's accurate among a large amount of difficulties? Are we going to have to section this off similar to, like, I don't know, an ELO from like the 6-star rating, 5 to 6 star rating, an ELO for the 6 to 7 star rating? I don't know. Or maybe it has nothing to do with the difficulty. Maybe your ELO is based off of any map played whatsoever, and the map is just the medium, and the ELO is just based off of whether or not you win or lose. But that seems kind of weird because when I've played an ELO-based system, I like it to be where if you like perform significantly ahead of your opponent, that would aid in your ELO, if that makes any sense, right? So if you stomp your opponent, you should gain more ELO. If it was really close, then maybe the ELO shouldn't adjust that much. I don't know. Are those ideas even good? Or they're just like cope from a player's perspective? I don't know. There's still a lot of questions that I need to figure out, but I think it'll be exciting to venture in nonetheless. Are we just going to take all badge 20s and then just take who wins and then do the normal ELO bullshit? Take all badge 20s and then just take who wins and then do the normal ELO. Wait, what? I think this is more important than whether or not people will play it because this determines whether it makes it into the game. And Pepe will have to agree with the fundamental concept. Well, I guess we'll find out. I mean, you can try getting it by letting players choose their own, and at last, just depending how hard they choose the gameplay is and how high the scores you can get. I do think bubbleman brings up a really good point in terms of like, in chess, the tournaments, there is no knockout. Every chess player plays every chess player. And that makes a lot of sense. I do like the idea. Yeah, it's still just a bunch of ideas in the air. There are ideas that I like, but the actual when we figure out what actually gets applied, some ideas that I like will have to be tossed into the trash. And like, hey, is what it is. Either way, I'm glad bubbleman. I know this has been like a slight meme in terms of like the back and forth with like me reacting to bubbleman's clip and bubbleman reacting to my clip and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But this genuinely is insightful. Like I love having conversations like this. It's exciting. It's fun. It challenges my own, what is it called? It challenges my own beliefs. Is that the right word? I don't know. It challenges my ideas, right? My mind likes to like pop off and just like think about random things and the potential, right? But I do need a perspective that can bring me back to reality. So that's good. I feel like bubbleman is a really good person that can help like bash my head against the wall and be like, Ed, you fucking dumbass. XYZ, you're dumb, or something like that. Because I respect bubbleman a lot. Not only as like a competitive player, but as a person who has engaged, as a person that I can consult when it comes to esports related stuff. So if he's saying that ELO is dead on arrival, I hear that and I take that seriously. Having a conversation equals watching each other's clips for the ultimate infinite content glitch. Listen, half of it is a meme, half of it is like serious. There is genuine conversation going on through this. Obviously, we can sort this out through a call, right? Which we'll call tomorrow. It'll be easy. It's fine. But yeah. Surprising we've gotten this far in the farmathon without running a single poll on if people would even engage in the ELO system. See, it's like, it's paradoxical. I obviously want to create a system that people will enjoy, right? But how can I convince people to engage in something that they like? I constantly see things from the perspective of not Like, I never want to give people what they want. I want to give people what they didn't know they need. If I ask someone what they want, it's obviously like they're going to say, oh, I like the system how it is. It doesn't need any changes, blah, 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 blah. Like, I see that so often. It's almost infuriating, right? It is so hard to see innovation. But if I were to show them a system that is entirely different and have them try it out, and then they tell me whether or not they like it or not, boom. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of like asking the question, chat, what type of videos do you want to see? I would like to assume that most of those responses are going to be set a new top play along that thing, right? Or oh, do something like XYZ video that already went viral. Play Osu in the talent show. Do a Osu knockout replay thing. Show everyone's replay, only show their cursors, have a knockout thing where if they miss, they die or disappear. Impersonate or be a VTuber and act like you're new at the game and then start setting insane scores on stream. Like when you ask someone what they want, they're going to go towards things they've already experienced. But I want to create something new. I want to do something different. Because what I want is something that doesn't exist. I've played the existing elo-based systems before. It's cool, and then I get bored. Imagine what would happen if there was a system that was elo-based but doesn't make you bored. It wasn't boring. What the fuck? How would that look like? So that's what I'm trying to figure out. Can we get like some notes? I mean, there's elo. People will be playing against each other, and that's about it. I gotta figure out the rest. Which pools make it in? I mean, there's a couple different ways that could happen. I've talked about how the pool of maps need to be tightly controlled. And so because of that, the pool of maps that would be like, okay, I remember talking to Cry and Enemy about this and how the Konami Arcade Championships did it. It's based off of the idea that you're playing a cabinet. You're playing like an arcade cabinet. So the pool of maps are all of the maps in that arcade cabinet. The only restriction is that in that tournament, you have to play maps within a certain difficulty range, right? So if it's like a 14 or up tournament, boom. You can play any map in the arcade as long as it's 14 or a 14 difficulty or up for that tournament, right? And I like that sort of idea of a very small, curated set of beat maps that players over time get extremely refined in, and then in a tournament setting, it's like who's going to perform the best when both players are already like insanely good at them. If that makes any sense. I like that idea. Will I exactly go with that? I have no idea.